Okay, well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're in a great place, and the end of the year is coming together as it should be for you, with lots of celebrations in lots of parts of the world. So, hello to you from Shergroup on the sofa today. I'm Claire Sandbrook, and I'm joined with my guest, Aaron Hines, today. We're going to be talking to Aaron in a few moments about his life as an attorney here in Orlando, Florida. Before we get into that, I just wanted to give a shout out to Shergroup's #1 fan, Ross Saunders. Hey Rossi, how are you today? And I think Aaron just wants to give you a little hello as well.
Hi Ross, good morning.
There you go. So all the way from sunny Florida this morning. So Aaron, thank you so much for doing this interview for us. Of course, you and I have become buddies through BNI. Our professional networking group here in Orlando, and it's great to have a fellow attorney in the group. We've got a couple of attorneys in our group, and Aaron's going to be talking about his life as an attorney in Orlando here today, and on some specific topics which I think are very relevant to all of us that drive a car, which is pretty much a large percentage of the population. And Aaron is a good guy to know if you end up with what do you Americans call it, a fender bender?
Yeah, that's one way to say it. Yes, auto accident, car accident, motor vehicle accident.
Okay. Well, I like to use the American terms and see how that equates over to the British, because we don't use that in Britain. Because we have bumpers, we don't have fenders. So that's a little bit. All right. So here in Florida then, what makes this a unique state for owning and driving a vehicle, Aaron? What's different to the other places in America?
Yes, so again, thank you, Claire, for letting me join you on today's episode. I'm very excited to be able to talk to you and all of your listeners. I know they're from all over the world, literally. That tune in, so I appreciate this so much. But yeah, what makes Florida unique for owning and driving a vehicle? First of all, Florida is one of only 12 states that have what is called a no-fault auto insurance system. And also Florida is right now the third most populous state in the US. So with that, we have a very high volume of tourists and even snowbirds that come down to Florida from up north every year. So on any given road, especially here in Central Florida, you're bound to pass by drivers that could be from South America, Europe, and then folks from all over the United States.
Yeah, that's an interesting dilemma actually, because we are a real melting pot, aren't we, because of our tourism industry, for so many people coming to Florida to vacation and also to live. It's as you say, it's such a popular place to end up, many people. So what does no fault insurance mean? And when I say that, I mean to you as an attorney, what does it mean?
Yes, so a lot of people get confused when they hear that term no fault. Now in Florida, that simply means that the insurance coverage that you purchase here applies for your medical costs associated with your injuries, whether or not you're at fault for the accident. So if you're at fault for the accident or not, you're going to get that no fault insurance coverage. Now in Florida, it's referred to as PIP, or personal injury protection, which can pay up to $10,000 of your medical bills. And potentially some other items depending on the situation.
Yes, PIP. Okay, I saw what that means. So, so what if somebody is just coming to Florida for part of the year? Maybe they live, in another state, or they're living out of the country. Well, what's the position there? What do they have to have PIP for the year, or the length of their stay?
Yeah, so a lot of this comes into, if any of the listeners or those watching this episode are thinking about moving to Florida, or maybe being here part of the year, this is something you should really consider if you're going to have a vehicle. So those required to carry this PIP insurance is anyone who owns a vehicle that is registered here in the state of Florida. So that's a key consideration. If you're going to own a vehicle and you're going to register it in Florida, you will be required to have PIP insurance.
Okay. And we have people in our chapter who can help with vehicle insurance if that's a requirement, through our BNI network. So if anyone's sitting there thinking, I might be coming to Florida and I don't know where to get insurance from, then talk to Aaron or talk to me, because we can definitely guide you on that.
Yes.
So if you're coming, and I've done this many times, it was always a bit of a nightmare for us as a family coming to Florida with a rental car. We always used to buy the insurance through the rental company, and always a big kind of question mark as to whether or not we had the right level of insurance. Do you have any views about that? For visitors out of the country coming to Florida, what sort of level of insurance they should buy? Is that something you get into?
Yeah, so the general suggestion is it really depends on your asset. So your ability to, your method of income, your assets, the higher they are, the higher the limits you'll want. So I always suggest to people to purchase obviously coverage that you can afford, but the higher the limit, the better, especially if, for example, you're in a professional or you have a lot of assets. Right,
just to protect yourself in case there's a claim against you.
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So if you're visiting from overseas, then you're going to say you should purchase insurance coverage if you're driving a vehicle. And I guess it's a difference between whether you own the vehicle or whether it's a rental vehicle, right?
Correct.
Because most people that are coming from overseas on vacation are going to rent a vehicle, aren't they, rather than buy one. I hope there's nobody out there listening to this who is coming to Florida and thinking they can save the cost of vehicle insurance. I don't think you would advocate that, Aaron, would you?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Yeah, the best rule of thumb is if you're given the option to purchase additional insurance coverage, to go ahead and make that purchase.
Yeah, I do hear it from time to time, and certainly from the UK side, and I can't speak for other countries, but from time to time there's an article in a magazine or a newspaper about when I travel, what sort of level of coverage should I buy? And this issue about vehicle insurance is something that I think people could try and skimp on, because it seems expensive. It won't be expensive if you end up in a fender bender.
Exactly.
So it's all about protecting yourself, which is what all insurance is for, I know, but it's just in the vehicle world, it's I suppose if you're going to have something untoward happen to you, a vehicle accident is possibly more likely than, I don't know, it's just something you've got to be very aware of, because even if you're a good driver, and I consider myself to be an excellent driver, my husband says I drive too fast, but I consider myself to be an excellent driver, but it's not me, is it? It's everybody else out on the road. If you meet somebody who is not driving safely and you end up,
absolutely. And that goes back to the point that I made earlier, which is, especially here in Florida, Central Florida, we have people that have driving habits or rules from other parts of the world or other states in the US. So you really have, like you said, a melting pot of different kinds of drivers here, which is great, but it also is a recipe for a lot of auto accidents.
Yes, I have to admit, and for all the Brits that are listening to this, you come out on the road here and you have to think twice about which side of the road you're on, because obviously we drive on the other side of the road to the Americans and our American friends, and so on occasion, Aaron, I have been known for a few yards to be on the wrong side of the road before I get a nudge from my husband. Oi, you need to move over. Oh, forgot. Thought I was in England, and especially when I'm sort of moving between countries. So again, when you're here on vacation, that could be you. If it is you, it's okay, because it's happened to me many, many times. But from Aaron's point of view, you know, you don't want to be on the wrong side of the road when you're having an accident. So now, if, God forbid, that you should end up, you know, in an accident. Now, by accident, let's because we're both attorneys, let's just define accident. I mean, how big an accident does it have to be? Is it like you touch somebody's car, or is it visible damage? What are we talking about in terms of, you know, what constitutes an accident? What would you say to that?
Well, yeah, anytime there's a property damage, and of course, especially an injury, you know, that's what we consider an accident. Typically that involves two different vehicles, or it may include, you know, a vehicle and a cyclist or a pedestrian. But yeah, that would constitute, you know, what we refer to as an accident. As far as physical injuries, the difficulty with that oftentimes is, you know, there's a lot of adrenaline that's happening with the individual involved in an accident, and they may not realize they are injured until a day or two, or maybe a week later, when they start feeling the impact of, you know, that other vehicle crashing into their car.
Yeah, that's always the worry, isn't it? I mean, it's the physical damage of the vehicle you can see, pretty much, you know, but it's that bump on the back where the head goes back and you get the whiplash. I mean, just as an example, where that doesn't manifest itself for 2 or 3 days, and you know, and then you've got a problem. Problem, you know, presents itself. So again, I think your recommendation would be to reach out to you if there's even the slightest chance of a bump and an accident, rather than kind of crossing your fingers and hoping it's going to go away. Because, you know, I mean, it's just a bit of comfort, really, isn't it, to reach out to someone like you and just check your position.
Well, yes. So Florida is interesting with, like I said, with this no fault insurance, and the reason being is you only have 14 days from the date of the accident to seek medical treatment in order to sort of kickstart your PIP or medical benefits coverage through the insurance. So that's why it's very important. If you were involved in an accident and you're starting to feel, you know, some kind of physical manifestation of that with pain, that you you know, get a claim started, get treatment, you know, within that 14 days. And so if you have that scenario or any kind of questions, you know, of course, anyone can reach out to me to run those scenarios by. Now, each fact is different, every case is different. You know, I'm going over sort of the general rules today.
Yeah.
Again, that's what you know, attorneys are here for, is to sort of cipher through those facts and situations and see how the law could apply.
Yes, as they say at law school, each case turns on its own facts. So, you know, we're really making broad sort of discussion today. You must take advice on your own position if you find yourself in a situation. So this PIP, this PIP cover, what does it actually cover?
Yes, so like I referred to earlier, its primary purposes for medical payments. So if you know, are injured, whether it's the whiplash, you get disc herniation, broken bone, scrapes, whatever your injury may be, it's to cover the cost of treating that, the medical payments. It can potentially cover lost wages, at least a portion of lost wages. It can sometimes cover household help that is required due to the accident. But again, there are, you know, exceptions to the exceptions. And the limit, of course, in Florida is $10,000 with, like I said, some qualifications on what percentage gets paid.
Okay. So can somebody rely, or can I rely on my own insurance adjuster to handle a claim if I'm involved in an auto accident? Is that a good way to go?
So my answer to that is no. You shouldn't rely on your own insurance adjuster to fully look out for all of your rights under their policy. So especially if there's another person that's the cause of the accident, you're best protected by having a competent counsel or attorney representing you during that claim process. And so that includes representation to handle of course your injury claim under your own insurance, but also with the bad driver's insurance. So that's a big part of this, is dealing with the other driver's insurance and not just yours.
No, so it's both sides, both parties looking at that entire situation and basically bringing that to a successful or a comfortable outcome, that everybody's protected as far as possible, which is all the point of having insurance. That's why we all buy insurance. But sometimes I think people don't use people like you to navigate the problem when it arises. I think they can do it themselves, or maybe they do it and they did do it wrong, or they go to the wrong person. So, and then they end up losing out in some way. So insurance is just, a bit of a minefield, I think, for those that can't get their head around the legal position and need to come to an attorney to figure it all out, the whole scenario. So by that I mean, if you're in a car accident, it's your position, but it's also the other person's position. And then God forbid there's more than one person involved. It just kind of like becomes more and more complex, doesn't it, in terms of pulling that all apart.
Exactly. And if I could add one more bit to that, the other sort of, you mentioned minefield, the other danger too of handling this on your own is the adjusters will often ask for what is called a recorded statement. So this is getting your take on the facts, but recorded on the record, that could be used against you years later for that claim. So that's why it's very important that if you find yourself in this situation, have a competent auto accident attorney to assist you, sort of guide you through that process.
Does that mean, and I'm drawing this experience from all that I watch on Prime Video and Netflix, but does that mean that if you are in an auto accident, you should really kind of like keep zip about anything until you've contacted your attorney? I mean, not confide in anyone or fess up to anything until you've spoken to an attorney, just in case you drop yourself in it.
Correct. So yes, that would be my general answer. However, if it involves your own policy, so with your own insurance adjusters, that's a contractual relationship. So you do have some obligation to give them information to your own insurance company and to answer certain questions. But that's a different story with the bad driver's insurance company. So again, it can get complicated pretty quick. So that is definitely a reason to seek counsel.
Yes. I mean, God forbid that anyone listening to this should find themselves in this situation. Maybe the point of today's episode is that we'll all drive slower and be more vigilant so that we don't end up in this kind of situation. I'm finding this very salutary in terms of my own driving, which I'm always on the edge of the speed limit, I'm afraid to say, but finding cruise control is curbing my habit. If you haven't found cruise control on your vehicle yet, you need to engage that, because that will stop you at least going beyond the speed limit. And I'm sad to say I've only found that very late in life, but it is a salutary lesson, just listening to Aaron talking. So the bottom line is, guys, if you end up, you're in Florida and you end up, now can you do the whole of Florida or just the central Florida? If somebody had an auto accident?
Yes, so I do practice throughout the state of Florida. So whether you're in the Keys or up in the Panhandle, I can assist you. Of course, my physical office is located here in Central Florida, but I handle a lot of things virtually these days with the great tools like Zoom and FaceTime. So yeah,
But of course, your practice, and thank you so much for talking about auto insurance. I asked you to do that because it's something that I haven't, touched wood or knock on wood, I haven't been in an auto accident, but I do think there's a lot of Brits that come here and a lot of foreigners that come to Florida on holiday, and they just, they don't have a person like you to go to if they get into an entanglement. And as I say, it doesn't need to be because they're a bad driver. It's just the melting pot of people on the roads today and their different driving habits. So, take a note of Aaron's. We'll put all his details in the show notes at the end, but just have Aaron somewhere in perhaps your speed dial if you're coming here on vacation, just in case you need an attorney, or you can always reach out to me. But I just want him to be known to you all. Now, that's one side of your practice. Now, you've given me some fascinating insight on the legal community here in Orlando, which has been great, like the Inns of Court, which it all tracks back in the day. So I love that you can follow through from the olden days in England and some of the things that we see here in Orlando and other parts of the United States. It's all part of our heritage between our two great countries. But what other areas of law do you practice, Aaron?
Yeah, so for the most part, the large majority of what I practice today is personal injury. So that would involve the auto accident, motor vehicle accident, like we've been discussing today. But also other types of personal injury claims, such as, if you have a slip and fall at a commercial property. Another sort of smaller portion of my practice involves employment matters, such as employment agreements. So document reviewing employment agreements, and sometimes drafting them if needed. And then sometimes I will also handle discrimination or unpaid wage claims, depending on the facts of those cases.
Yeah, very good. Of course, the employment legislation here in Florida is a lot less rigid than it is in the UK. And for employers, it is an easier way to do business here, I think. You can set a business up here with a lot less regulation around employment contracts, although still good to have a written contract that you can go to, and each party is clear on their obligations, both the employer and the employee. But it's I know not every state is like Florida. I mean, there are quite stark differences between Florida and, say, California or New York, where there's a lot more regulation in relation to how people are employed. Would that be right?
Correct. Yes. So Florida is what they call an at-will employment state, which means, an employer can technically release an employee for any non-discriminatory purpose. So any business reason, an employer can, technically release or end employment with that employee, as long as it's not for a discriminatory purpose. And so that, yes, that does make it a ripe environment for a lot of small businesses and just business in general. But that also opens up for potential abuse. And so that's where I can step in on behalf of an employee if they believe they are not being treated fairly under the law.
Yes, of course. Well, it's got to be fair and balanced between the needs of the employer and the needs of the employee. But I do think that Florida gives employers more flexibility, which is welcome. Certainly, as somebody that runs quite a large business, if we need to, then we can action things that perhaps we couldn't do in the UK. So Florida has a lot of business advantages for any of you that are thinking of moving to Florida and setting up a business here. I mean, obviously, if you're coming out of country, you'll have to navigate the immigration system and obtain the right visa to work and build a business here. But if you're an American and you're coming to Florida, and of course a lot of people are coming to Florida, they're leaving, you know, some of the states like California and New York and coming here, aren't they? So that's good news for us down here. But I mean, we've had a few conversations around the fact that you've been to England, right? You've visited England and the House of Parliament, I think, or the House of Commons.
Yes. So yeah, I was a bit of a nerd when it comes to British politics, so I'd always watch on C-SPAN the House of Commons. It was just very interesting. So when I was completing a summer study abroad in 2005, I was very excited to take a tour. But sadly, when I was waiting in line for that tour, that's when I think it was the second set of London tube bombings that happened back in the summer of 2005. And so I was standing there in front of the House of Commons Parliament, and I couldn't go forward with the tour because you know, the police stopped everything.
Yeah.
Very scary time. Yeah, very scary time there, but also just reflecting back, you know, the people were very resilient, and you know, I still enjoyed my summer there, even after that sort of tragedy.
Yes, London is it's one of the happening cities on the planet. That's how I like to think of London. In fact, if an American asks me where I come from in England, I always say London. I actually my home city is actually Norwich, which is about 100 miles north of it. But I always say London because everybody knows where London is. And it's a bit like New York or Los Angeles or Sydney or Tokyo. People tend to know where these, you know, really, really mega cities are, and London is definitely one of those. And unfortunately, it attracts great opportunities and great spectacles, as you've seen on the TV, but it also attracts a darker side. And so certainly in Shergroup, we've worked in that darker side in our security business, which of course led us to come and bring our security business to Orlando. If you can do security in London, you can pretty much do it anywhere. So that's one of the reasons that we came here. So I bless you. I appreciate that you are a bit of an Anglophile and you like our politics, and you're interested in what we're doing. There's never a dull moment in UK politics.
Exactly.
We won't get into that, but it's an interesting time. So long sort of the upshot from today really is that you now know Aaron, so you've got an attorney buddy here in Orlando, Florida, if you're coming here on holiday. I think you're also a good guy though for just being kind of like open to talking to people about the legal community here. I mean, I reached out to you this week, didn't I, and just ran a problem past you. And you know, I think it's a good guy to have in your network. Of course, you could join within more if you join BNI, and you can then join through BNI.
I have BNI right behind me.
Yeah, BNI. But because we're both in that, and it's a tremendous referral network. But for anyone that isn't in that, doesn't need BNI, then he's a go-to person. So you can get to him through his own website. Now you've got your website at Hines Law PLCC, is that right?
Correct.
Hines Law
Yes.
PLCC. Okay. And you're on LinkedIn, as I would hope you would be, and I know you are. And you've got your own Facebook page at Hines Law PLLC as well.
Correct. Yes, you can find me on basically all social media platforms at Hines Law PLLC. So it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Yeah.
I love your TikTok. I love your TikTok.
Like and follow. I'd really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you, Claire, for just letting me sort of talk about these topics that unfortunately a lot of people don't want to talk about until after the fact. So yeah, it's good to sort of brush up on this. So if you are unfortunately involved in that situation, you have sort of a leg up on others and can get the proper help that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if that sort of situation happens to you, well, it's very scary. And especially if perhaps you're not in the car on your own, perhaps you've got children with you, you've got you've got a family because you've brought your kids here on holiday. You just need to know your legal position as soon as possible.
Yes.
So I would encourage you to take advantage of, Aaron's details and just keep them somewhere, or at least talk to me. I can always point you in Aaron's direction. Okay, well, thank you, Aaron, so much. You're going to be our sort of like go-to attorney for Florida, I think.
Hey, yes, I'm happy to assist.
Great. I know attorneys can be a little reticent. I know I am about talking about different things, but actually we're problem solvers, aren't we? We're people that even if we can't deal with it, we probably know somebody that can. And so I know you're very good like that, and we try and do that in Shergroup as well. So there'll be a line that we won't be able to cross because it's not our topic, it's not our area, but just signposting. So yeah, so we'll talk to Aaron again at some point next year, I'm sure. And for everyone that's listening today, well, Shergroup USA, check out our website at shergroupusa.com. Lots of things happening on our security business, which is very exciting to see. All built from our experience in London, working with the police and removing protesters from dizzy heights and underground tunnels and trees that they didn't want to come out of. We've done it all. So honestly, our business in Orlando, Florida, is built on that experience. Check out our main website at shergroup.com for everything that we do. Like Aaron, we're on all the social channels. I mean, if you're not on all the social channels, what are you doing as a business owner? You need to be on all the social channels, including TikTok. So check Aaron out on TikTok. You can find us on TikTok as well. And we'll put a whole bunch of information about Aaron and what he's talked about today in the show notes so that you can follow up in the future. So Aaron, thank you so much. I know time is precious for you. So thank you so much for your time today. And we have a great end to the year, and we look forward to talking to you perhaps again next year. Okay.
Same to you. Thank you, Claire and Shergroup. I appreciate it so much.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.